Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Hyder. This is Skate City Sports Media Company. Today's topic, I want to talk a little bit about the defense. So we all know that news broke over the weekend. Jonathan Gannon seems to be returning to the Philadelphia Eagles as the head coach. The last time I heard, it looked like Lovie Smith was going to become the Texans head coach. It seems to be the direction they're heading, actually, which is kind of interesting since that really wasn't discussed. I mean, we didn't hear a lot of discussion about Lovie Smith even being in consideration for the Texans job. With that said, with Gannon returning, I think we have a large discussion about the defense because on one hand, I definitely believe when you analyze coaches, there is some semblance to players to where when you got a guy that's a rookie play caller, he's a rookie coordinator, there is some expectation of it's going to take a minute for things to click. I don't doubt that this young man is very intelligent. I don't doubt the football intelligence of Jonathan Gannon. I've heard the young man talk. He wins rooms when he goes into these interviews, so it must mean that there's a very smart mind behind this guy. So I have no doubts about that at all. But when you filter his defense and you look at certain numbers, the story does come, quite complex and a little concerning, if you will. So I think the best way to handle the situation is like we can't change who the coach is, guys. I mean, the coach is the coach. You know what I mean, guys? Like, it's not really too much we can do about that. With that said, we can't talk about, is there any way of getting this defense, getting talent into this defense to make Jonathan Gannon look better, to help him progress along as a play caller? Because I think we all know there are some jumps he needs to make in terms of situational play calling, to where, there were some times where, you got a guy, and mind you, sometimes it's really difficult, guys, because I don't know if it was Steven Nelson. I don't know if it was Jonathan Gannon in the scheme, but you got a situation where you're in a 3rd and 7 and you got a guy playing off 8 yards on Guyton in the Chargers game, and we got them backed up against their own goal line. It was just an idiotic sequence of like leverage and scheme versus the situation, which you just gave them a really quick out route to get a first down. With that said, let's jump into some of the numbers, guys, and we'll get into a much larger conversation about Jonathan Gannon. So I filtered by a lot, and I always try to keep things like, what's the end goal in mind, right? I mean, it's great to know the numbers behind things, but you kind of have to know, like, what's the end goal, right? The end goal is pretty much to get off of the field on 3rd down, right, and to prevent teams from scoring. I mean, obviously, the biggest end goal is to keep teams from scoring. And then, you got your 3rd down defense, all that kind of stuff. That is probably the larger importance of things. The one thing I noticed right off the jump is like, okay, the DADOT. So this is the average depth of targets when targeted by players. So the Philadelphia Eagles as a whole ranked number 1 in the least amount of average yards when targeted, 6.4 yards. The next team behind them is Seattle at 7. Seattle and Buffalo are tied at 7. I will say, like, the depth at which we're being targeted, I don't think is the problem, but I think it's emblematic of the situation, right? To where I think we all know that there are times, and against certain quarterbacks, where the cushion afforded to the player is far too much because they're worried about getting beat over the top. And I get it, that if you keep everything in front of you and you come up with a play, you can dare a team to go for it on 4th down and get off the field, which Gannon was successful at doing a few times, or you can hopefully hold them out of the end zone and keep them to field goals, because if you can keep a team to field goals, even high-scoring powered offenses, you got a shot of stealing a game. With that said, I think we all know that far too often that was not the result against better competition. They put the ball in the end zone on us. Now, I will say, even inside the game, you go back and you look at Tampa Bay, I will give Gannon credit for this. After the initial onslaught that he couldn't prevent, his first quarter numbers are horrendous. I mean, they really are bad. He's got to get better in the first quarter at getting teams off the field. Even in saying that, I will say there was a duration of like 4 series to where he got Tom Brady off the field and gave the Eagles offense a chance to get something going again, try to get back in the football game. We just couldn't do it. So, I mean, I will say that there's some complexity to the analysis, but when I see something like an average depth of target of 6.4 yards, which by far leads the league, it's by more than a half a yard compared to the number 2 team. I mean, it tells me that we played off so much in coverage that quarterbacks were just like, okay, if you're going to give me 6 yards a play, like, I'm going to trust my ability to get the ball into the end zone as we get down the field. It's the philosophy and the theory of the team. It's how it works, guys, is that they believe in winning this percentage rate, this battle, this inner battle in a football game of explosive play rate. They believe if they put up more explosive plays than their opponents and prevent their opponents from gaining more explosive plays than them, and they win that percentage rate, that they should ultimately win more football games than they lose, which, to be fair, when you look at the results, I mean, okay, I get it. I definitely understand. But I will say, the thing I always hear said, Stephen Nelson reflected this. I've heard Jonathan Gannon say this statement, which is basically guys got to rally to the football and they got to tackle. And I think that's a very complex topic, guys. So I just want to talk about this for a second. Where did the Eagles rank in terms of missed tackles? Like, were we missing a lot of tackles? Because I think this discussion is complex. I think it has something to do with more than just missed tackles. But if you look at missed tackles, we ranked 10th lowest, guys. We were the 10th lowest in terms of missed tackles. We only had 103 on the season. So I would argue missed tackles aren't the problem. Now, I do think that there's a discussion within that discussion, which is, yeah, Gate, I agree. It's not missed tackles, but it's the fact that our guys are late in reaction and dudes are picking up 6 yards when they should only be picking up 3 or 4 yards. And that's really the issue and the problem with this defense. I definitely think there's a point in that, guys, no doubt about it. But I'm just going off of what I've heard Stephen Nelson say, what I've heard Jonathan Gannon say, and then I'm looking at the underlying analytics going, okay, like that's a very undersimplification or an oversimplification of the actual nature of the problem here. So I would have to disagree with him a little bit. But let me go over to DA-DOT for you guys. So the top 12 teams in DA-DOT, so average depth of target when targeted. Eagles were number 1, 6.4. Number 2 was Seattle, 7. Buffalo tied for 2, 7. Tampa Bay, 4, 7.2. The Giants were 5 at 7.3. Atlanta tied with the Giants at 7.3. Number 7 was Kansas City at 7.4. Arizona and Cleveland tied with Kansas City with 7.4. Number 9 was the Rams at 7.6. Jacksonville tied with the Rams at 7.6. Indianapolis was 11th at 7.7. Tennessee tied with Indianapolis at 11th with 7.7. So those are your 12 teams with the fewest average depth of targets versus their secondary. Now the highest. Here's the teams with the highest target range. New England, 8.1. San Francisco, 8.1. So they tied 21st. Minnesota, 8.1, tied 21st. The Jets, 8.1, tied 21st. 25th, Denver, 8.3. 26th, Green Bay, 8.4 yards. Tied with Green Bay and 26, Baltimore, 8.4 yards. 28, the Vegas Raiders, 8.5 yards. Tied with the Vegas Raiders is the Houston Texans, 8.5 yards. 30th is Washington at 8.6 yards. Tied with Washington is New Orleans at 8.6 yards. And Detroit, 8.7 yards, was the 32nd ranked team in terms of average depth of target. Many ways of accomplishing something, guys. That's the point I'm making here, right? Like, there are very good defense that are in the top 12 of average depth of targets to where they're not giving up the field. Like, to be fair, Indianapolis, although I think the pass rush fell flat on them this year, certain aspects, they got sacks. That's not the problem with Indianapolis, but their pressure rates and hurry rates and stuff were really bad. I will say, though, that with a team like Indianapolis, you got a good defense, right? Tampa Bay, great defense. You look at teams like Buffalo. Buffalo had a good defense, although they had a very iconic moment for the Eagles where they couldn't get off the field because they couldn't make a tackle, and they were playing very passive, in the way they're approached to end that game. Tennessee is a very good defense. But then on the flip side, the guys that rank in the bottom half of the league, New England plays a lot of man coverage. So it doesn't surprise me that the average, depth of target for New England would be a lot deeper than on Philly because they're playing far more man coverage than Philly is. So that would make a little bit more sense to me. But, San Francisco's down on that list. That's a really good defense. Argumentative with some of these other teams in terms of how good the defense is, to be quite honest. But New Orleans is a really good defense, and they rank 30th, right? So, I mean, different ways of accomplishing a goal is what I'm getting to, guys. Now, what I will say is that there's a complex story here. Who are the main influences we hear? We normally hear of Jonathan Gannon, which is Eberflus's defense that was out there in Indianapolis and Zimmer's defense that was out there in Minnesota. Well, Eberflus, 7.7, ranked 11th. It was tied for 11th overall. So it was in the top third of the league in terms of the average depth of target. Like, teams weren't really targeting it. But then you look at Minnesota, they're in the bottom third of the league as they're tied for 21st with New England, San Francisco, and the Jets at 8.1 yards. It's just an interesting take, guys. I don't know where to go with that other than to say that, like, the two influences are on, like, drastically different perspectives. Like, one's in the top third, the other's in the bottom third, and Gannon leads everybody. at 6.4. It's just a strange marker. It's a really strange marker. So when I looked at pressure, because I'm going to share with you my theory, guys, and then we'll get into some discussions. I'm kind of on board with a lot of you guys, which is this team needs pass rushers. It desperately needs pass rushers. And I do think that the story of the pass rush is really complex in Philadelphia, because I do think that the Eagles, actually, believe it or not, guys, we knock quarterbacks off their spots. The statistics, if you're moving a quarterback off their spot is hurries. And the Eagles rank really well in hurries. The problem is we can't complete the play. We're in the middle of the pack when it comes to pressures. So, I mean, we get pressure on quarterbacks, but clearly if you're really high in your rankings, like you're doing really well in hurries, but you're in the middle of the pack in terms of pressure, but yet when you look at something, such as pressure rate, which really, measures everything from quarterback knockdowns to total pressures to, sacks to hurries, and it puts it into like a mathematical formula, it's shocking we're in the bottom third of the league, and it has to do with the fact that we don't complete the play. We get pressure. We knock guys off their spots. We hit the quarterback here and there. We just can't complete the play. That's really the problem with Philadelphia's defense. We can't complete the play for a sack. We need guys that can not only get to the quarterback, but finish the play. Now, I will say it doesn't help you, and I know someone's probably going to comment this, and I agree with you. It doesn't help you when you're just giving teams a 6-yard cushion. That's probably going to affect your sack rate, because teams could just get the ball, quarterbacks get the ball in their hands fast and avoid that pressure situation you put them in. And that's very true. And it's something that I think Gannon, and look, guys, I'm not down on Gannon. I'm not going to sit here and crap on the guy. I think he's a very bright young man. I just think he has much to prove. There's much for Gannon to prove for us in this upcoming year. I definitely think he needs to analyze that, because your coverage has to match. Like, your defensive line and your coverage have to match and mirror each other. If they don't, then you're playing out of sync. And it's just, it's going to be easy for your opponents to take advantage of. And I definitely think Gannon has to get better with this. I think that those two elements of the game have got to be better together, because I don't think that they are. I don't think that they work in unison with one another sometimes. But I'm going to talk about blitzes. This is the big news, right? Is that Gannon doesn't blitz. No kidding, guys. No kidding. He doesn't blitz. It's definitive in the numbers. But I will say, I think if you look at the story genuinely and honestly, you don't have to blitz to have success. Okay? Cincinnati didn't get to Patrick Mahomes by blitzing him a bunch. They dropped a lot in coverage and got him in coverage sacks. So, I mean, there's multiple ways to achieve an outcome. But I will say this. Gannon needs to blitz more. I can't see a way around that, man. You can't be at 16%. You got to kick that up a little bit more. I'm not calling for us to be in the top third of the league. I think that makes you vulnerable if you do that. But I also think, hey, man, 16%, dude, come on now. You're playing. So who are the top teams when it came to bringing the blitz? Number 1, Tampa Bay, 40.8%. Number 2 was Miami at 39.6%. Those two teams, between Brian Flores and Bowles, Todd Bowles, they brought the house, guys. They were not scared to bring their defenses and come full force at you. They stand out above everybody else by quite a few. The next team's 5 percentage points off, guys. It's kind of crazy how far off they are. Carolina was the third team, 33.7% blitz rate. Number 4 was Arizona, 33.6. Number 5 was Jacksonville, 31.5. Number 6 was Baltimore, 31.1%. So Martindale. So I know a lot of you guys out there are big fans of Martindale, of Wink. He's floating out there, and he's definitely a guy that likes to bring pressure. Number 7 was Washington, 31%. Riverboat Tom. I'm joking, guys. I actually like Ron Rivera a lot. Number 8, Kansas City, 28.1%. Number 9, Detroit, 27.3%. Number 10, Dallas, 27.1%. Number 11, the Los Angeles Rams, 26.6%. Minnesota, number 12, 26.1%. And then if we look at the bottom third of the league, 21 is Chicago, 22.6%, guys. 22, Seattle, 22.4%. Number 23 is Cleveland, 22.1% blitz rate. 24, New Orleans, 22%. 25, Green Bay, 21.3%. Cincinnati, 20.5%, ranks 26th. Indianapolis, 27th, 20.2%. Tennessee, number 28 at 19.9%. 29, San Francisco, 19.8%. I'm sorry, 28 Tennessee, 19.9%. 29 San Francisco, 19.8%. 30th Houston, 19.5%. 31 Philly, 16.4%. And then 32nd, the Vegas Raiders, 12.1%. Look, there are some good teams in the bottom third of the league when it comes to bringing pressure. Just to be honest with you. San Francisco, good football team, good defense. Tennessee, good defense, right? Cincinnati, good defense. New Orleans, good defense. Like, there's good defenses on that list in the bottom third. There's no doubt about it. So I don't think you have to be in the top third of the league when it comes to bringing pressure to get results defensively. I don't believe that at all. But, I mean, once again, we're in this weird situation when you look at the two perceived influences on Gannon. You know, Eberflus in Indianapolis, who's now the head coach of the Bears, and then you got you got Zimmer, who now I don't know what's going to happen with Zimmer because he just got let go from Minnesota, but Zimmer, number 12, 26.1% pressure rate, blitz rate. My bad, guys. He was 12th in the league, top third. And then you look at Eberflus, he's 27th. He's in the bottom third of the league with 20.2%. I'll say this. I don't think Gannon needs to be in the top third of the league. I don't think he has to be apples for apples with what Zimmer did in Minnesota in terms of bringing pressure. But I think you got to scale it up more close to 20%, guys. I'm going to be honest. I think that we're a little too passive at times. And there are some situations and things that if he brought pressure would skew you a little bit more towards that 20% marker, give you that 4% difference you're looking for. And that's what I'm really looking for from Jonathan Gannon in the upcoming season. I'm looking for things that trend that way that make sense. But I will tell you this. You look at blitzes, you look at hurries, you look at all those things, right? They're all just ends to a means, right? You're trying to accomplish something. Those things themselves, I guess, really doesn't matter is what I'm saying, guys. It matters to, are you creating turnovers and are you getting teams, are you sacking quarterbacks and put them into third and long or get your defense off the field on third and fourth down? To me, that's really the thing that matters, right? And that's like, I don't give a crap about any of these underlying numbers except for the third down numbers, the scoring numbers, like, you know what I'm saying, turnover rate. That's where I think Gannon's got to make his living this upcoming year. Like, I don't care about these numbers, man. Yes, you're not going to make some people happy. Like, aesthetically, the game is far more entertaining when you're bringing pressure. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, I care about winning football games and like having something to root for come January and February more so than I care about, look at the way we're blitzing these quarterbacks in September. With that said, I can't be the only person here who feels like we were promised one thing. We were told I don't have a particular scheme in the defense. We're told a lot of coach speak, right? What you do, you absolutely do. And then like it felt like for whatever reason, and I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, he was just trying to be the smartest guy in the room per se. I think that for whatever reason, he felt like the way he played his defense early gave us the best shot at winning football games, and he was clearly wrong. But we didn't get those things, right? It took us a long time to start seeing them use things like stunts and twists with the defensive line, right? We really didn't even start seeing turnovers happen until the middle of the season, if we're going to be fair. Let's call a spade a spade. It took us quite a while to start producing turnovers. Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely think that there's some things to think about here. I want to go to, like, at the end of the day, what is the thing that gives us the better indicator here? I would argue it's DVOA defenses. Where do you rank in terms of the DVOA defense? In the Eagles, from a DVOA defense perspective, so this is how they grade you by competition, right? So you don't get style points for beating up on bad teams when it comes to DVOA. Eagles rank 25th. 25th ranked defense is bottom third of the league. Bottom third when you filter by DVOA. That's tough, guys. I mean, this is a tough conversation to have here. Passing defense. When you filter by DVOA defenses, our pass defense is 25th. It's 25th in the league. Not shocking when you give up, 80% completion rates to more than one quarterback. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every quarterback has that one game where they just go off on a defense and they have 70, 80% completion rate on you. But like when 3 or 4 dudes do it, it's quite concerning. Like, I mean, it's got to get better, man. It's got to get better. There's just no doubt about it. And I think the one thing that improves this defense is a pass rusher. Now, look, I still think we need an upgrade at linebacker. I still think we need upgrades at safety. I think safety is a big issue too, to be quite honest. We can talk if you guys want to talk. If you guys want to talk about fits in terms of free agency, guys in the draft that might make sense. We can discuss that, guys. But I definitely think when you look at this, right? If you look at pressure percentage, guys, the Eagles were 21st. So we're at that very threshold of the bottom third of the league. And that's because although we were really good at knocking quarterbacks off their spot, although that we were decent in terms of hurry ups. We were a good football team. We ranked 7th with Dallas at 11.6% hurry percentage. So we knocked quarterbacks off their spot. We did knock down quarterbacks, like I said, guys. I mean, quarterback knockdowns, the Eagles ranked 16th, which is right in the middle of the league. I mean, there's some truth to some of these statements, right? Pressure percentage, though, we ranked 21st because we didn't complete the play with sacks. That's what the Eagles need. Sacks, turnovers, prevent teams from going into the end zone. And we got to get the ball back to our offense, man. Let's just be real, guys. All right, y'all, let's talk, guys. Let's talk about how you guys see this defense getting better and what needs to be done. Because we can't change Gannon being the coach. He's the coach, guys. You know what I mean? Ted Nicholas, what's up, buddy? He says, need a cornerback, a linebacker, defensive end, and a safety. I think some of those position groups need more than one, to be quite honest with you, man. Sam Shady Sports says secondary is the priority, then linebackers and pass rusher. See, I see it a little differently, Sam. I get what you're saying. I think the pass rush is the priority. I think you can easily solve by bringing Steven Nelson back, your secondary, or Levi Wallace or another veteran, and then go into the draft and find a young guy to bring in for the immediate. I get what you're saying long term. Long term, we probably have less answers right now in the secondary outside of Avonte Maddox. And then you got McPherson that you're kind of depending upon, but you don't know anything about him. He hasn't played enough to really say he's anything. So I get what you're saying long term, Sam, definitely. But I think in the immediate time frame, that pass rush has got to get better. But I also think safety. I get what you're saying, like safety and you look at the corners, like the long-term future there's a little uncertain, no doubt about it. What's up, Blaze Taylor? How you doing, buddy? Lit City Lambo, what's good, buddy? He said, we need a vocal leader on defense, depth at all positions, and some young, hungry players who are ready to get after it. 100%, man. You're right. Red Eagle said maybe Gannon will coach like he has something to prove now. Red Eagle, that's exactly what I would want him to do. Just what you said. Prove people wrong. You know, the organization banked on you. The organization wanted you. And I know we weren't the only organization. I mean, Gannon had a very favorable reputation throughout the league, but easiest way to get what you want is just to prove everybody wrong. You're right. What's up, Takeem? How you doing, buddy? Queasy the Gray said this is bad news for us. Laugh out loud. I don't know if it's necessarily bad news, but he's got a lot to prove, Queasy. I agree with you there. Like, he's got a lot to prove against better competition, better quarterbacks. The DVOA says it. The way, if you look into the underlying numbers against the competition and how many dudes torched us for over 70% completion rate on that defense and the amount of points they put up on us. Like, he's got some stuff to prove, man, no doubt. He's got to prove a lot. What's up, Jeremiah? How you doing, man? He said, not really. That means we have to get better personnel. We just said, I agree, but dude sucks as our coach. I don't think he sucks, man. I think it's a combination of things. I think he's inexperienced, Queasy. I think he was a very, very inexperienced coach. We talk about Nick Sirianni being inexperienced, but Nick had at least been a part of that play calling chain in Indianapolis, right? So he had some experience doing, being a part of that process. I don't know that Gannon ever was a part of the, Eberflus chain of play calls. I mean, that's something we really don't know. So that means you really had a green guy out there trying to learn on the spot. And I think you saw that early in the season, how green he was at play calling. I don't know if he's going to get better, Queasy. I'm not, who knows? I can't say for sure. Jeremiah said, I'm not a fan of his philosophy, but I'm also looking at the results and the personnel. Yeah, I don't like the philosophy either, Jeremiah. I'm not a fan of the prevent nature of his defense either, to be quite honest. What up, 2020? How you doing, man? What's up, Shonuff? How are you, buddy? I don't want nerds continually making the decisions. Hey, it is what it is, man. It's the way football is going, Jeremiah, in terms of, I think when you say nerds, I think you mean like analytics-based football. It's the way things are going, man. It's pretty much every defense, every offense, even the play callers. Most of these organizations, that's what they want now. Queasy said, I definitely agree on the tackling. Fly Park said, we were catching the offense instead of attacking the offense. That's true. We were playing, I would say it a little differently, but agree exactly what you're saying. I would say that we were more reactionary than we were aggressors. We didn't really force the issue. We more so reacted to the issues, and I agree. Showing up said Gannon is staying not thrilled. Well, at least we know which direction to go in for defensive players. That's the part that really annoys the crap out of me, showing up. The one thing I can give Gannon is Gannon can identify talent. He's been a scout. He knows what he's doing in that department. And not having him at the Senior Bowl, that ticks me off when Houston could have made that decision prior to this week. They could have told Gannon that, hey, man, like, we're probably going to go in a different direction. You might want to get down with your club to the Senior Bowl. Like, that's the whole part of this hiring process that ticks me off with the NFL and the way they handle it. Queasy the Great says, I just want to get Devin Lloyd and like another cornerback. Talent on the defensive side of the ball, basically, Queasy. Gannon also needs to allow the corners to press the receivers. Yeah, he did a little bit of that, Fly Parks. He did a little bit of that later in the season. He played more man, not necessarily press, but he started playing more man coverage. I do agree with you that there needs to be a better mix and balance between zone and man. You can still be a primarily zone football team in your coverage, but the rate at which you're doing it's got to get better. Like, I thought he got better at that down the stretch of the season when he got lesser quality quarterbacks. I think he needs to stay true to that. Queasy said blitz more. I agree, man. Like I said, I don't think you got to be top 12 in the league in terms of blitz percentage, but I'm not happy with 16% either, man. We need to be a little closer to that 20% figure. Personnel for you, Jeremiah? Yes, for the scheme, most definitely. The Gambling Hippie said, do you think Brandon Graham made a huge difference being out? Line seemed really good for 1 week, but that's only a 1-game sample size. Yeah, hard to say. He's definitely a good player, Gambling Hippie. I mean, I'm sure his presence was missed. His ability to set the edge was missed. I mean, the guy's a tremendous edge setter. I wouldn't depend upon him. He's an older guy. I love Brandon Graham. He's one of my favorite players. But, I mean, I think you got to get youth in here. Brandon Graham needs to be reserved to that Chris Long role now. Keep him fresh. Keep him ready in games, so that way he has the most impact. That's what I would do, man. Fly Park said the knucklehead Barnett was the only end at least getting pressure consistently. And penalties. Yes, sir. You're right. Jeremiah Butler said, I was concerned about this defense from opening week. I didn't know what to expect from it because we didn't really, he didn't really give us anything at press conferences. He said he adjusted the second half of the Falcons game, but they walked up and down the field the first half. Ernest Wallace said, get better pass rush, but playing soft coverage doesn't complement each other. I agree 100%, Ernest. You're right. You're right. It's out of unison. There's no harmony between the coverage and the defensive line play and how we do things. And it took Gannon, in my opinion, and I know he's green. And like I said, guys, I'm here to give him a second chance because what other choice we got? But I definitely think that there's a validity to say, man, why did it take you so long to start figuring out I get what he was trying to do. He was trying to use that 50 front, that 5-man front with Avery as the Sam to create one-on-one matchups for the defensive line. But it's like, man, you should have moved over to using more stunts and twists faster than you did, to be quite honest. Yeah, it's disappointing, guys. It's definitely disappointing, man. Wallace. Jeremiah said, got to have guys that can get home, but also have excellent coverage. Yeah. I mean, like you said, guys, where I think we're all in agreement here is that there's got to be more continuity between the coverage and the pass rush. It's just not always there. Sometimes it's way off between those two groups, right? Between your coverage and your pass rush. Sometimes they're like on different planets almost, it feels like. Fly Park said the blitz is why I said we wouldn't draft Parsons, didn't fit the scheme. Allie, what's up, Allie? How you doing? He said JG has slow box safeties playing 20 yards off the ball and defenders don't get sacks and tackles for loss. I like Epps, but we need at least one more post safety if Jonathan Gannon is our defense. Yeah, I'm not saying this is who we should go for, Allie, per se, but the thought of having Epps teamed up with Reid, the athleticism intrigues the crap out of me because those two guys are very athletic. Now, I'm going to tell you there's probably better safeties coming, that are going to be free agents in this free agency period. Money is a factor, though. You know what I mean? We can't pay everybody. So we got to figure out the money behind some of this stuff. Ernest said the guys will hardly get home if you give up 5 yards off the rip. Quarterbacks just don't get the ball out fast. Yeah, quarterbacks just got to get the ball out fast. My bad, Ernest. I agree. Shonoff said we need more athleticism off the edge. A guy that can keep pressure on a quarterback after he rolls out. Yeah, there was quite a few times, showing off, where I agree with you, to where it seemed like we had a quarterback dead to rights and we just couldn't finish the play. 100%, man. 100% that happened quite a few times, man, and it got frustrating, no doubt about it. Dre, what's good, man? He says, yo, what's up, Gate? So it's a fact that Gannon is back. If so, oh, brother, I can't take much more of what he allowed last season. We're just going to hope that he's learned some stuff, man, because I think we're all in the same stratosphere. Like, there's personnel issues, right? We got to get better at safety. We definitely need a little bit more from the pass rush, but we also need Gannon to marry his pass rush to his coverage. And if he doesn't do that, I don't know what to expect, man. I think it's going to be another headache. Jeremiah said, I really don't know what we were to expect JG to do with their personnel. Queasy said, and gone, our personnel is sorry on defense. Fly Park said, good quarterbacks have like 80% completion percentage on us. That has to change, 100%, man. Like, to me, it's not like Fly Parks. To me, it's not even the 80% marker, even though that's a crazy number. It's the fact that you gambled on this defense and you said the whole outcome is to make them drive the field, and hopefully eventually they end up messing up and either do a turnover on downs or they turn the football over or you hold them to a field goal. But in fact, when you played the better teams, they put the points up on you. They ain't turned the ball over on downs. You certainly didn't hold them to a field goal, and they were certainly not turnovers against the better teams. There wasn't as many turnovers. I mean, we did get Brady the very first time around, but you guys get what I'm saying. There wasn't that result that we were looking for overall. 2020 said David Ojabo. You're talking about the edge rusher from Michigan? Jeremiah said, I'd rather 80% completion rate with only 2 to 3 touchdowns than quarterbacks running up the score before the half because they're beating the blitz. 2020, I agree. You guys like Ojabo? Last year, I can't tell you how many times we got hit over the head. Yeah, the secondary was a lot worse last year, though, Jeremiah. But I agree with you that we got beat on passes over 20 yards quite a bit. And I think that might play. I mean, you got a point there, Jeremiah, which is the coaches were probably looking at the film from last year and saying, like, hey, man, this big play rate's a problem here. Like, these guys aren't good enough. We're going to have to give safety support. I think that played a role in, but I'm just hoping that they see this year's film and then they narrow that focus a little more. Matt Hatter said Gannon just needs a couple players and a brand new scheme. I don't know about a brand new scheme, but he needs to reconfigure some of the things that he does within the scheme. Sam Shady said, isn't Gannon still? No, he's not a candidate anymore. What's up, NFC East Beast? How you doing, buddy? He said, good morning, Gate Gorillas. Enjoy the peaks and valley views of South Florida. Funny. Eagles Clip said, we better fire Gannon or I'm going to lose it. They're not going to fire him, Eagles Clip. 2020 said, JG promised us complex multiple schemes using different formations and players and will change weekly. We ended up with an off-coverage defense even more soft than Schwartz, but slower to adapt in game. Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating part, 2020, is that I didn't see that promise live up. I didn't see where we had these multiple fronts that he was promising. Now, there were parts of the season where we did it, but it just wasn't with the consistency that I thought we were going to see it. Like I said, it took him a long time to even start, using stunts and twists to get guys, to get the pass rush home. Antonio, what's good, buddy? He says, I'm late, but I'm here. Appreciate you tuning in, guys. Marianne, what's up? Said the Eagles are attacking the defensive trenches in the draft and free agency. I hope so. I really do hope so, because we definitely need some pieces. What's up, Fly Parks? He said, so we go after an end in the first round? I mean, I can't say what they're going to do. You know how it is, Fly Parks. I have no clue what how he's going to do, but I would say that previous draft history over the last 20 or so years, it seems like a pretty good possibility, you know what I mean, that they're going to go edge rusher with one of those picks. And if they don't go first round, I definitely think you're going to see it within the first 2 rounds because this is a really, really good edge rusher draft class. I think the wide receiving core is good in this draft class. I think the corner core is pretty good in this draft class. And I really think the edge rushing core in this one is really good. So I expect us to definitely within the first 2 rounds probably take an edge rusher. I would be shocked if we didn't. I mean, you can never ever guarantee anything, but you know what I mean? I would be shocked if they didn't. What's up, Cree? He said, greetings, Eagles Nation. I hope you all had a nice weekend. I hope you all enjoy this week. Me too. I hope we got a good week coming up, guys. Matt Hatter said, I think the big one is one of the top corners and defensive ends. Get a linebacker or safety in the second. What's up, one above all? How you doing, man? Green Wingman said, in your opinion, what player would you want to see from free agency and or the draft would help improve Gannon's defense? Blessings. That's a great question, Green Wingman. That's a really good question. So, I mean, there's several players that we could kind of like really talk about and think about who would be the better fits in the schemes. I mean, look, would I like Bates the third from Cincinnati at safety? Absolutely. Cincinnati would be crazy to let him walk. If they let him walk in free agency, the Eagles need to be all over that. Marcus Williams, I believe is his name, the safety from New Orleans, is a good football player. Reid in Houston, good football player. I mean, there's definitely some guys in this upcoming, from the secondary standpoint that makes sense. Levi Wallace is not a special player, but if you're playing the value market, you look at a Levi Wallace and a Steven Nelson and these guys, when the initial phase passes and the big money gets spent on corners and that next market comes around, I would look to those guys because I do think that you just need adequate and competent play across from Slay, and then we need to bring in a young guy or two to keep developing. That's how I would approach it. Now, I do like Ogbah from Miami, the edge rusher. I think they need to find, to me, a safety, a linebacker, or an edge rusher in free agency. I definitely think one of those three should be taken with some priority to it. And then I definitely think that we, if possible, look, wide receiver money can get ridiculous, just like corner money can get ridiculous. But if you can find the right guy, like a Mike Williams for the right price, I would go for it. Chris Godwin, right price, I'd go for it. I mean, we could use a veteran wide receiver where we're not worried about trying to develop that guy. Then you can always go get a guy in the mid rounds of this draft to kind of round out your receiving core. Edge is the priority to you, Fly Parks. Karloftis, Ojabo, or Johnson the second and the first for me. Edge is a big need. I agree, NFC East Beast. Edge rusher is a huge, huge need for this football team right now. Shonoff said, I agree with Sam Shady because the top edge rushers will be gone by the time we pick. So I'd go defensive back first pick if Sauce or Hamilton is still there. One above all says we need Devondre Campbell at linebacker. He will get off, and we need two edge rushers. Push the rush is the biggest issue. Cree said, it seems like the Eagles front office are losing their front office personnel to other teams. They definitely are. What are your thoughts on that with the draft being a few months away? It's not going to impact this draft class. Like, the board's already pretty much been set, guys. I mean, there's going to be adjustments, and they're going to move guys for sure. But they start scouting this draft class years in advance, guys. I will say that Brandon Brown's a big loss in my opinion. I liked Brandon Brown a lot. I made a video when I first started doing these lives. And you remember I made a video and I warned people that despite what we think as Eagle fans, the league views our front office in a very high regard. And we just watched our dudes get plucked. We watched our guys get plucked away from us. Both our DOPPs got taken away. And then we had two high-level executives that were interviewed for GM positions. I mean, it's the way it works. If you're good at what you do, those guys are going to get jobs and opportunities. You know what I mean? Let's just hope that they can replenish the cabinet. I will say that in the immediate future, like Anthony Patch is good enough to do things. I don't know how Anthony Patch is with contracts, but in terms of the scouting and stuff like that, Anthony Patch he's a senior dude. He's been on the Eagles forever. He knows how to evaluate guys. I don't have any problem with Anthony Patch. Then we got Caldwell's a former GM here. I would look to see what Caldwell does. Caldwell's a former GM with Jacksonville. Jacksonville is probably going to go through a little bit of a shakeup in their front office. Does he pull some dudes from Jacksonville, right? Minnesota's front office is going through a shakeup. Do any of those guys get pulled here by Gannon and those guys that know some of those people in that front office? I would look to that area. I mean, it's possible, guys. Ojoa reminds me of Trent Cole, but more speed, less power. 15, David said, what's up, David Berry? How you doing, buddy? Said 15 linebackers, 16 safety, 19 quarterback. Rinse and repeat. Sean McDermott had a bad first year with us. He did, but I wouldn't say it was bad. Not like this. Not like this, Mad Hatter. But I get what you're saying. We gave up on Sean McDermott before we should have, and I agree with that. Mariana said, look at McDaniel that just got hired in Miami. He's a straight nerd. Yeah, these organizations really value the analytics people now. Actually, I would take an edge in round 2, then repeat. I think it just depends upon the draft board, right? I think for me, the biggest areas in need early in the draft are cornerback, linebacker, safety, edge rusher, and probably a wide receiver, depending upon what you do in free agency. I mean, I don't know the exact needs yet because we haven't seen free agency, but I would prioritize those 5 positions, and I would go with the best player available at one of those 5 positions with those picks. Fly Park said, Gates, so why did we hire Gannon if he had no experience? For 2 reasons. Number one, Gannon was very well known across the league as being a guy that was going to eventually get this gig. So the Eagles had to get in early to get him. So they got in early to get him. But also, you got to keep in mind, guys, your defensive coordinator has to should. They don't always. We all know Schwartz and the whole Schwartz and Doug Peterson situation. But generally speaking, you want your defensive coordinator to have a very strong relationship with your head coach. Because that guy's, if you got an offensive guy, that means that defensive guy is definitely a very important coach on your football team, right? So, I mean, it's kind of the nature of the relationship, too. Richie said the Eagles lost 2 key members in their front office who dealt with pro and college scouting, Ian Cunningham to the Bears and Brandon Brown to the Giants. Will fans be able to notice the loss? Not this year, they won't, Richie. You won't notice it this year. Ian Cunningham's a fine guy. I don't mean to discount Ian Cunningham's contributions to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a guy that spent many years with the Ravens. He was part of that Joe Douglas group that got brought in. He handled most of your college scouting stuff. Brandon Brown was more so the guy that handled the pro side of scouting. He did lend his hand into college scouting. Brown played corner, I think at Fordham University. I want to say he was a cornerback. It was one of the smaller universities, and he got involved. He got a Juris Doctorate. Was one of these lawyers that former football player and lawyer. Our front office likes those lawyers. They're good guys. I mean, look, they were smart guys. I made a video. One of our very first live streams when I started doing this during the New Year's, guys, I talked about this, about Catherine Wright getting an interview. And I broke down kind of how the front office worked and the way I saw some of the priority of these guys. We won't feel it this year, but we will need to replace them with quality scouts. Anthony Patch is a senior guy. Anthony Patch has been in this organization for a long time. And if I had to take a wild guess when it comes to scouting, purely scouting, not the title, purely scouting, Anthony Patch is the better of Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown in terms of that regards. But Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown had multiple roles to what they did. What's up, bro? He said, I drew a joint. We have to take a Devin Lloyd round 1. We need a field general. Gannon does not see nothing till halftime. Sam said, I love how you put that Graham should fill that long role. I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran pass rusher. He means a lot to the city. We're not going to get better by letting him go. I mean, financially, it's not really a savings, to be quite honest. You're not really getting that much back. I mean, there is some wiggle room by using June 1st designations to do that, but to get back like maybe $1 million, guys, just doesn't make sense. I would just keep him here as that veteran pass rusher, and I would try, like I said, I would try desperately to upgrade. I mean, he might be a guy, Sam, that early on in the season is still that guy that's playing a lot of snaps, but you kind of work it into a rotation as the season goes on. You get the young guys involved. I'd also love to see them be a little bit more. What's the right way of saying it, guys? Not flexible. It's not really flexibility, guys. I would like to see them be a little bit more diverse in the way that they use Milton Williams. Milton Williams, I think, should have a larger role in the football team just because, look, there is some issues when it comes to Milton Williams being on the interior as a defensive tackle in a zone blocking scheme where they're going to go 2-1 and he's going to be the defensive tackle that they go 2-1 on and they climb the second level. And yes, he can get washed out of his gap responsibility, no doubt. But as a pass rusher, that guy's got a lot of value, man. I would move him out as a 5-tech because as a 5 technique, he can give you a lot of value as actually an edge setter and as a run defender. And then I would definitely move him all along the line in terms of a pass rusher because it's there with Milton. He's got that thing, man. That initial pass rush move is pretty special for Milton. Ali said the Rams and the Chargers run similar schemes defensively, gap and a half too high, and the results are completely different. We need Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if we need Jalen Ramsey or Aaron Donald. That'd be pretty tough to get those people. Allie. But you're right; those guys play a big role into how successful the Rams are. I definitely think we could make a video and we could talk about some of the teams that are very similar in the shell, the coverage shell, and then talk about the similarities and the differences of how they accomplish things, and then we can bring that into a larger discussion of about pretty much how you view the personnel, right? Like start with the coverage shell, show the similarities, what they do, what we do. Then we can kind of talk about where some of the differences lie in the analytics between the two teams, and then shape it into the personnel and how that factors. I definitely think we can make a video around that topic. Sam said, would you be opposed to bringing in Mike Zimmer as a senior advisor or something of the sort if he doesn't get a coordinator position in 22? Almost be like Romeo Cornell did for Mike Vrabel. I don't think they're going to do that unless the coaching staff's in agreement to it, but it's not a bad idea, Sam. It's not a bad idea at all. Assuming he doesn't get a job. He's, that scheme makes a ton of sense. Gannon came up underneath Zimmer to an extent. Yeah, absolutely. You better do it before, Eberflus or somebody else tries to pluck him. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're going with that, Sam. Absolutely. A Drew Joint said, we need a linebacker with Gannon, a stud for the system. He was a serious guy who also had no experience. They like the guys in interviews and the systems they were in previously. Yeah. What's up, Drew? He said, hopefully JG did some self-scouting and has a plan. I was in the hopes of getting a more aggressive defensive coordinator. Yeah, I know a lot of people were really high on Wink Martindale because you guys understood that Wink Martindale's a guy that brings a lot of pressure. He's kind of the opposite of, Wink kind of just lays it all out there. He puts his secondary in harm's way and just says it's going to fall where it's going to fall. He's a little different from the way Gannon plays things. So, yeah, I know a lot of people were probably like a little disappointed we didn't go after like a Wink Martindale type. I mean, to be fair, even Zimmer, and maybe Zimmer would be a great senior advisor if that's agreeable to the coaching staff and our front office is agreeable to that. Mike Zimmer would probably make a great advisor because he does seem to bring more pressure than what we see these guys do, Gannon and Eberflus. Dre said, I can't put all the issues on Gannon, but just like Hurts, if we can get people around him and he's still a bum, then he's got to go too. Dre, that's a really good way of putting it. That's very true, Dre. I kind of agree with everything you're saying there, which is if you go get him the talent and it still doesn't mesh, the problem's got to be looked inward now. I agree. Superhero 18, what's up, buddy? He said, I think we need a physical, hard-hitting corner, someone who can make receivers have tough, contested catches. You want a physical outside presence out there. I hear you. Dang, Cree. He said, discarding that final Dallas game, all of the playoff teams averaged 34.7 points per game against the Eagles. And it's not good. It's bad mojo. I will say that most of those teams you would say if you held them to 35 or less, maybe you got a shot. If you hold them to under 30, you really got a shot. But I agree, Cree. You'd like to see that number get down to under 30. Ali said 0 defenders with double-digit sacks. Hargrave and Sweat both got 7.5. Yeah, I think some of it has to do with the blending. It's the blending of your coverage with your pass rush. How you marry those two things. And I think defenses. I think offenses got smart with the way that they rolled their protection. They started doubling up on Hargrave. Fletch has got a role to play in this too, man, because I love Fletch, man. Fletch is such a good football player. He's one of my favorite Eagles of all time as well. But where were you, Fletch, on these one-on-ones sometimes, man? He won a couple of times down the stretch. I remember him popping a few times, but not enough. I mean, that's another thing, man, is like some of these guys got to produce. Shows how impactful players change your D completely. Did we pay Sweat too early? No, we paid Sweat a pretty fair contract, to be honest with you, the gambling hippie. He got paid as a guy who would get you 7 and 9 sacks. I mean, that's the value range they gave him. So I mean, I think they paid him. I think they paid him pretty fairly. Dre said I was watching LB in 500, and they mentioned a guy named Jermaine Johnson. I believe an edge rusher. Any opinions on him? Very athletically gifted young man, very similar to Josh Sweat in some ways. Better edge setter than Josh Sweat, at least collegiately. Who knows what he's going to be in the league, Dre, but collegiately, this guy really sets the edge against the run. I do know that a few guys that have played collegiately on the line, they have critiqued him a little bit to me to say that they like him. They think that he's good, but they would be very, very cautious of taking him in the top 20 picks just because they're not sold on his actual toolbox as a pass rusher. They think he's going to have to develop at the NFL level some pass rush moves. I mean, their understanding of the line plays a lot further than mine, to be fair, Dre. I mean, I'm a quarterback, receiver, and corner coach. I never coached any of the lines, offense or defense. I like this film, though. I was in favor of his film. I wouldn't hate that pick at 19, and I would love that pick if we traded back into the mid-20s and got it. But I honestly feel like he's a top 20 pick. Saison said, going to give Gannon a pass for 2 reasons. One, first season and didn't have his type of players for his scheme. My bad, Saison. Richie said, Jermaine Johnson out of FSU is a Howie type pick. Reddick and Jones, both free agents, had double-digit sacks last year. Yeah, I worry about the fit for Reddick. Like, I definitely like Reddick a lot, Allie. I do. And you're right. He would drastically improve your pass rush. Him playing that Jannard Avery role would be a problem for defenses. It's just, would the Eagles use him? Yeah, how would they use him? Would they use him as a Sam? Would they use him as a Mike? How would they use him? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to bring him on a line of scrimmage and let him set free? Or would they put him down as a stand-up joker on the defensive line or as a hand in the dirt 5-tech? I'm sorry, 3 technique in the hand in the dirt 3. I don't know. I mean, who knows? When I say 5-tech, guys, I'm talking about defensive end, but 3-point stance. Jeremiah said, you think we can get Jones? Won't the Cards try to make it work? Who knows, Jeremiah? Depends upon the price and what their cap flexibility is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have their numbers in front of me to really evaluate it, and I'm not too sure what he's going to ask in terms of the contract value. You know what I mean? Marianne said, I want Sauce Gardner, and we need to stay away from Elam and Stingley. They can't tackle at all, nor will they. They're both liabilities. I actually like Elam, Marianne. I'm not going to lie. I would like to actually acquire Elam. I like Sauce Gardner over Stingley. That's because Stingley's been injured too much, and like outside of his freshman year, he's been very pedestrian in the numbers because of the injuries. Pooh said the Eagles should trade 2 first-round picks for the future and use 1 on Dean. I don't know if I'd trade 2 of them. Maybe 1. I wouldn't package 2 of them out. Only thing about Jones is he's 31. Uh, 2020 said, but why, Coach? Why did it take so long for them to employ stunts and twists? Isn't that just D-line 101 basic stuff that every D-line does, even in college? I mean, yes. I mean, of course they do it in college and stuff, but not every team incorporates stunts and twists as much as other defenses do, 2020. I don't know if that's a preference of Gannon's or if that was a preference of Rocker, the defensive line coach. I really don't know because I'm not in the room, you know what I mean, 2020. That's where I would love for reporters to ask more specific questions about things to find out whose preference some of this stuff is. You know, they're not going to give you certain information, but I think if you phrase the question the right way, you can get insight to that. You know what I mean? And I don't know that our reporters do a good job. I mean, I thought our reporters did a heck of a job inside of the end of season conference. I thought they asked really good questions, but I do wish that they would, you know, I think there are opportunities. Let me go with that. I think there are opportunities. Eagles Body Bag 18 says, give me Will Anderson at linebacker and an edge rusher. Yeah, Will Anderson doesn't come out, though, until next year. But, yes, he's pretty special. Tim Craig said, just want a linebacker, Lloyd, Harris, Dean. Showing up said, I like Jermaine Johnson and Ali Gay from LSU. There will be some talent at edge in the second round. I hope we trade one of our first-round picks for more capital in this draft. I'd try to get another second or a third. Yeah, I don't hate that either, especially an early third, just because by the time we get around to our picks evaluation in the third round, you know what I mean? I almost trade forward if we didn't, just because I do think that we can use impact players. And I do think that the first 3 rounds of this draft are going to be really good, especially I'd say the first, I don't know, let me see. I'd say the first 80 picks or so are going to be pretty good. Keep Balky away. Well, he's not really our problem. That's Jacksonville's problem. They're not going to let Balky go. He's friends with the owner. I'm talking about their scouts, their actual scouts, guys, not their front office members per se. Sam said, just posted an article on the GCS site about the interest from other teams. Sam, I actually posted one of your articles down below. So if you guys want to read Sam's article on the Gate City Sports Media website, it's posted in the links down below. Shining Star, what's up, buddy? He said, this draft needs to be all defense. 2 defensive ends, 2 linebackers, safety, cornerback. Add a few in free agency. Gates, piggybacking off of the front office getting poached, I have a strong feeling Andy Weidel will become the next GM in Pittsburgh. We are in trouble. It's possible. One above all, that's very possible. I don't know his connections back to Pittsburgh. I have no clue if he's got like really strong connections there, but I know the Eagles regard him very highly. And, Andy Weidel and Ian Cunningham were underneath that Joe Douglas staff in Baltimore. So maybe there's some familiarity with their time in Baltimore with that Pittsburgh front office in ownership. 2020 said some coaches are hype and some are the real deal. Statland is the real deal. He takes the run game to another level. One day we will hear it was Statland who changed scheme to run post week 6. I'm pretty sure Statland advocated it for 2020, but to my understanding, it wasn't Statland. It wasn't any of the coaches. It was the players. The players went to Nick, and then Nick took in the advice of the players. That's how I heard it said. I'm gonna guess it was the offensive lineman that went to Nick and said, "Hey, man, we're struggling a little too much throwing the football. Let's get behind us here. Let's run the ball." Saison said, "Hopefully we can draft Leal, Dean, and that cornerback from Auburn, SEC Towns." What's crazy is before I would have thought people were crazy for saying Devin Leal might slip to the 2nd round. I'm starting to see him mocked to the 2nd round all of a sudden. That would be an incredible pickup in the 2nd round. He's inconsistent, but the talent level, it's hard to get guys that talented in the 2nd level normally. That is not a good excuse. I'm missing the context here, Eagles body bag. Antonio Holmes said how he will draft a player nobody is talking about, and we will all know it. Georgia defensive tackle Jordan Davis. He's a hard one to figure out where he's going to go. I got Jordan Davis as a 2nd round pick with the potential to sneak into the back half of the 1st round. I think he's going to go before our pick in the 2nd round. I honestly do. I wouldn't hate that pick though. Jordan Davis at one point looked like a lock to be a top 12 pick, but to be honest with you, weight concerns, and I know Jordan Davis very well, Antonio. He played down here in Charlotte, so I definitely know him. I was there. I scouted him a couple times. He's a very physical football player. I'm not too sure, though, there's not better options inside this draft, to be quite honest. What do you think of JoJo Domann and Mike Rose in later rounds? I haven't really looked at Mike Rose yet, to be honest, David. JoJo Domann is some parts of his film are pretty impressive. I had some write-ups coming up on him. Jeremiah said 62 in the stream, only 18 likes. Hit that like button. Appreciate you guys. I would rotate Milton Williams between defensive tackle and defensive end all season. Yeah, I think they need to do a better job of staying flexible with what they do with them. Ex-receiver London or Burks, and wait until the 4th for a guy wait until no, you're not getting Watson in the 4th. NFC East beast. You got to be in the 2nd round on Watson now, man. He's climbed up the boards. He's going to be a 2nd round pick more than likely. Big Moose said Gannon better have learned a thing or two about his scheme from that Tampa game alone. You cannot allow 80% completion rate or better to decent to great quarterbacks. I agree. It's pretty hard to watch at least. LAFK, what's up, buddy? He said, we have promise, but I think we have to upgrade the secondary. Yeah, that's what Sam was saying earlier, that I think he was thinking of it from the long-term perspective of you really look at what we got at corner, you got McPherson, you got Avonte Maddox, and we got a lot of guys like Tay Gowan and them that we don't really know much about. And then in safety, you got Epps, and then everyone else is, you got a couple of guys that are older that are also free agents, and Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod. And then you got, a big question mark in Kayvon Wallace. I have no clue what he is at this point. Yeah, I could definitely see the need for the secondary. Fly Park said we need to stop going after choir boys in the draft. My bad, guys. Give me someone with strong swag or with some swag. My bad. Who said Fly Parks? I disagree. Win or lose, we need players with character regardless if we win or lose. That is why I want to give Hurts a chance. Is he the best quarterback? No, but he has a good character. I think it's a balance, guys. I would argue it's a balance of those two things. The gambling hippie said, off topic, but if Eagles draft or trade for a quarterback, what do you think the value on Hurts is? I don't know. That's a good question, gambling hippie. I don't think the Eagles are going to move him on a rookie contract for anything short of what they paid in for him, which is a second rounder. I think teams would have to be a second rounder greater. I mean, you got to look at it from the Eagles' perspective. He's still on a rookie contract. You know what I mean? So I think that, the other possibility there is that you do a player for player type swap with your draft picks. You're using Hurts in a longer play for, to bring in people. Us Eagle fans need to have a quarterback with a good moral compass and solid character and humility. If one comes along who is arrogant and selfish, we don't need that, even if he is a winner. Reddick will be inconsistent at the edge in a 43. He's only 230, 235 pounds. I don't think Reddick would want to do that. Why make your career harder? Yeah, I'm not saying that Reddick would want to do that. I'm not even saying the Eagles would do that. I'm saying I don't know how they would use him. Are they going to use him as an Avery, in the Avery role, or they're going to use him as a Sam? Would they play him as a Mike? I mean, it's hard to say. Allie said, we did exit stunts and Texas stunts in high school. Hashtag state champs. Allie said, do you like Kalarftis as a pass rusher? Most impressive technique-wise, I think he's the most impressive of these guys. Maybe outside of Aiden Hutchinson. The technique is there. I just don't know about the underlying athleticism, Allie. I don't know how athletic it's required to be as an edge rusher, to be quite honest. But from the skill standpoint, hand placement, things like that, he's very good. I don't know how it's going to translate to the NFL, but I do think that he's going to be a top 20 pick more than likely. NFC East B said Eagles can get a good. Sorry guys, everything's kind of sticking here. Eagles can get a good defensive tackle in the third, but need to move up a few picks. Look at the teams picking ahead of them. I hear you, man. What's up, TK? Thank you so much for the super sticker. I can't see a comment, but if you have a comment, just leave it down and I'll read it for you. Sorry I missed it until this point. I apologize. Gate City, what do you think of Roger McCreary or Colby Bryant? I like Colby Bryant a lot. I still think Sauce Gardner is the better player, but I think Colby Bryant is being – if Colby Bryant's a third-round pick, man, you got to find your way up to go get Colby Bryant. Very good football player. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a very good pro. Roger McCreary, physical guy. He's played a ton. He's played in the SEC. He's got in there and he gets in, he disrupts footballs. He's got pretty good PBU breakup rates. The problem is he's not, for a big guy, a tall guy, he's not the most long. He doesn't have the most reach. His arm length isn't what you would think it would be, which was a little surprising to learn about him. I still think that he's a first-round pick. If that guy slips into the second round, that's a really good value for a second-round player, to be honest, Fly Parks. Wait, y'all are fine with taking an over 30 quarterback, 75, not an over 30 edge rusher? I think I missed the context of that one, Dre. I apologize. Bang that like button. Appreciate you, Jeremiah. I think Davis ends up in Dallas. Travis Jones over Jordan Davis. I like Travis Jones a lot. Yeah, the UConn guy. He's pretty good. Is it true that we don't have a real nose and that Jordan Davis would help our run defense? Great question, Allie. That's a really good question. We have guys that can play the nose and then are true noses, but they don't necessarily want to be that. Javon Hargrave is a true nose. He did it for Pittsburgh's defense. He can two-gap for you, he can do all that stuff. But he would much rather be in a one-gap system where he can get up there and chase the pass rusher. Fletcher Cox has the ability to, but he doesn't like playing those. It's not what he wants to do. Now, I will say that the guy you see kind of rotate in is Hassan Ridgeway. Hassan Ridgeway is he's an unrestricted free agent as far as I know. He's an unrestricted free agent this year. So you got to figure out what you're going to do there. They drafted Marlon Tuipulotu to be that guy to develop as a nose. He didn't look ready for an NFL field, and it's not a good look that the last week of the season, when we did all these call-ups and put all these dudes in the game, I don't recall him being in that football game, Allie, to be honest. That's not a good look. Marvin Wilson got called up. I don't know if I'd say he's a true nose. I'd have to see more film on Marvin Wilson to say if he is or is not a true nose. Raekwon didn't get extended, so they didn't extend Raekwon Williams a futures contract so far. They can still do it later on, but they haven't yet. Yeah, I think it is a need, Ali. I think it's a need, especially if you're going to move on from Hassan Ridgeway. You better get a nose in this draft. Now, we've already talked about a couple of options here. Jordan Davis is a nose. He's a big guy, big, strong guy. Be definitely good for run support. But I really like one above all's recommendation of Travis Jones for the UConn defensive tackle. That dude's pretty good. There's a few guys in this draft class, a couple of noses that are pretty good. Epps has starter potential. We still need grooming. Go draft a young safety as well. All these off-the-radar guys I scout, Watson, climb boards, then fall in the draft. I don't think Watson's going to – I don't think he's going to fall, man. I don't think he's going to fall. Every scout talked really highly of him. NFC East beast. I don't think he's falling, man. Shonuff said, I've been campaigning for us to get Ritter if he falls. Turns out that might not happen considering that they think he was the most impressive at the Senior Bowl. Dang it. I know a quarterback when I see one. LAFK said, what are your thoughts on Jaquan Brisker? Better in coverage than I thought he was going to be. A little bit more of a playmaker than I thought. I think he's pretty good. I think he's going to probably be a second-round pick. He's a good football player, and I'm not a Penn State guy. I'm an NC State guy. I think he's a pretty good football player. Gay City, we need you to go live on draft day. It's a must, coach. Yeah, I'll be live, guys, on draft day. What Watson were you talking about? What do you think about safety Terrell Edmonds from Pittsburgh? The underlying data on him is not that impressive, Antonio. He got beat a lot in coverage. I mean, he got beat pretty bad in coverage. But he's definitely one of the guys who's played a lot. I mean, he's experienced. Sometimes you put a guy in the right system, you know what I mean? Maybe it works differently. I mean, he was exposed a lot on the back end because, you know, when you look at certain defenses and they like the way they like to play aggressive. What's up with Kayvon T stock? Are you talking about the Georgia defensive lineman? From what I heard, he's probably going to climb into the back half of the first round. Sakeem said Travis Jones over Jordan Davis. Is it possible that maybe Jonathan Gannon didn't blitz because he didn't trust the guys we had and wanted more talent? I'm just curious. Early on, I think so. I mean, later on in the season, he was playing them more in man coverage, and we saw not necessarily blitzing. I think he started to bring blitzes in the second half of games during the second half of the season. Confusing nature of words there, guys. But with that said, you know, hard to say, man. I mean, Illuminati, it's possible. It's possible that, you know, the reason he was playing, if it was his decision, this wasn't Steven Nelson just making a mistake. If it was his decision to play Steven Nelson like 8 yards off a receiver, then that probably means he didn't trust him a whole lot. And would you trade Rager if offered a 6th-round pick? No, the cap hit's too much. No. If the cap hit wasn't what the cap hit was, sure, but not what the cap hit currently would be. What do you think about Logan Hall? Hadn't had enough time to watch enough film yet. Shining Star to give a real perspective on what he is. I wouldn't trade Rager for no less than a 3rd. We paid a 1st for him. Give him time to develop. 2 EPAL was in the game, but you didn't hear his name. I didn't know who you were talking about, man. Did fare at best. NFC East Beast, I couldn't catch who that was, man. We need a good short yardage running back in the late rounds. What's up, Mullins 80? How you doing, man? We need Brisker at 19. I don't know if I take Brisker at 19, man. It's a little high for where his draft status is. I'm nervous with all the front office snagged from the Eagles. Ian Cunningham, Brandon Brown, free agency and draft-wise. It's not going to affect those 2 things this season, Big Moose. Those things are already put well into place long before the season starts. So it's not going to affect us in that regard. It's the future. It's what's going to do to you from 2 years from now is where you'd feel the repercussions of something like that. It's about the Eagles. But look, the Eagles have always been pretty good about filling those roles. You know, they find guys, they plug them in. Hopefully they can, they can do that, man. We're stuck with Rager at least for another year. Exactly. Yeah, the dead money on his contract's bigger than I think a lot of people realize. Show enough said people forget that Rager earns first round money. Yeah, it stinks, man. It stinks that we're trapped into the contract that way. And like, I'm not like, guys, I was high on Rager coming out of college. I definitely thought there was talent there, but yeah, he's been a disappointment so far. I mean, for his sake, I hope that something clicks next year because it ain't looking good, man. Do you think Hurts can improve? LAFK, my bad, man. Yeah, absolutely. Do I think he can improve? Absolutely. Am I concerned that he's having surgery done to his foot and he won't be right until probably the end of April, beginning of May? Sure. I mean, he's going to have to spend most of his time on film and not on the field until he gets to like the late spring, early summer. With that said, he's a worker. He's a hard worker. He's got some very clear things he's got to develop at. He's got to get better at the timing plays. You have to see coverage a little better, and you got to get the ball out of your hands. When I say see coverage a little better, I think people mistakenly think he can't read the safety. He can read the safety. That's not his issue. The issue I see with Hurts more so than anything is when he sees leverage of a corner on his receiver, he's having a hard time judging when the ball should come out of his hands. And there are times that he's waiting until the receiver breaks open instead of anticipating it, having that report the receiver and getting it there, right? When you hit your rhythm step, if you're getting to that first read, the ball has to be out of your hands on the rhythm step. I think that's where things got to get much better. Look, is this deep ball there yet? No, but I just feel like that's something that can absolutely be improved over time. I'm not really worried about the deep ball accuracy issues with Hurts. That can get better gradually better over time. It's not a big deal. More so the whole thing about playing on time with your offense and playing in rhythm. He's gotten much better at playing on time. Now we need him to be in rhythm with this offense. That's where the advancement has to happen, or they'll be looking for another quarterback if it doesn't. Thoughts on Muma from Wyoming? What's up, James? I like him a lot, man. I love this film a lot. More athletic than I thought he would be. Was impactful in Wyoming's games. I mean, you got to worry about the level of competition, sure. But, I mean, overall, I think he's a good football player. What round do you have Drake London? Oh, he's first round, guys. I see Drake London going first round. I would say probably somewhere between pick 15. The Eagles are picking. I'd say between pick 15 and 24 is where I think he'll go. So, yeah, I forgot about the cat pit. I hope he improves. Yeah, me too, man. I like Jalen Petrie showing up. Very versatile back end of your defense guy, like a guy that played kind of a linebacker role. They call it the star role, out there. It was Baylor, I believe, is where he played. Interesting prospect. Third round safety kind of prospect. I kind of sneaky like him. Yeah. Big Moose said, so many needs on this team. One of the most improved off seasons in Eagles history. 3 first rounders and enough cap space to make some noise. It's all on Howie now. Yeah. Tui Pelotu. What round should we draft a punter? I hope we don't draft a punter, Antonio, but I agree with what you're saying. We need to bring in at least competition. Yeah, it was pretty bad down the stretch, wasn't it, Antonio? That was a pretty bad performance, man. He looked so good when the weather was warm, but as soon as the weather started turning, man, that's pretty rough to watch, man. What's up, Eagle Lifer? He said, what up, Gate? Currently sitting in the back seat with my son driving to Florida, moving there, and you're keeping me entertained. Thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in, guys. Be safe. Enjoy Florida. Be down there with my guy, Canadian Freedom, who's down there vacationing. Good time to move to Florida, right, in February. Jeremiah said, I was disappointed with Rager starting on draft day. And every time I hear it, see the other number 18, I get PTSD and enraged. LAFK said, do you think Howie drafts a linebacker with the first round pick? I'm 50-50 on it, LAFK. It's just not a history for it, right? I mean, 79 is the last time we did it. It's just not a history to go off of us doing that. But at the same time, I just can't see you got 3 picks. If there's ever a year you're going to break tradition, if you make all 3 of those picks, and I'm not saying they will, guys, but if you're going to make all 3 of those picks, this seems like the year that you could take the risk on a linebacker in the first round. I mean, I don't know they're going to do that, guys. I still think that it's probably going to be a second or third round guy that they go after at the end of the day. It's just, it's just how they are. But I definitely think Devin Lloyd could be a difference maker in this defense. I think Nakobe Dean's a good football player if he's there. I definitely would. Gates, have you watched Boye Mafi? I can't never say his name. I know you're talking about from Minnesota, or Sam Williams from Ole Miss for edge rushers. The Boye Mafi, I think is how you say his name. I always mess his name up one above all. I have better than I thought he would be. I have not watched Sam Williams yet from Ole Miss, though. I haven't had a shot yet to watch any of his games. Ali said, as a star, is Petrie more of a box safety than a post safety? Yes, I would definitely say that he's more of a box, Ali. I would definitely say a box safety. As a matter of fact, I'm not saying he can't give you some uses as a post safety, but I definitely think it's not a strength. It's not a strong suit. Are there any good punt returners? Because I don't want to see Rager at it again. Actually, there's a corner out of Houston, I want to say. I think it's Houston. There's a cornerback out there that's he's a pretty explosive punt returner. Veron McKinley III reminds me of Ed Reed type ball hawk. What's up, Scoob-Doo? How you doing, man? Watson news was debunked. Huh. I missed it. Deshaun Watson news? What part of it was debunked, man? I missed something there. The rumors to Philly or I just kind of quit tracking Scoob-Doo, honestly, man, because it just got annoying because it kept happening so much, man. I just kind of tuned it out for a while. To be completely honest, I think there is a significant chance that if Pickett or Willis is at 15, Howie snatches them. You can never rule it out, but I hope they don't do that because I think Pickett is talented. I do. I don't think any of those dudes are the top half of the draft quarterbacks. I do think Pickett has talent, and I think Malik Willis has a really, really high upside. I definitely think this draft class is going to have guys that are going to be really good. I think there's going to be some really good backup quarterbacks from this draft class, guys that are like bridge quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks for organizations. I definitely think you're going to find those guys in this draft class. I don't know that outside of maybe Pickett, maybe Willis, you're going to get a franchise guy. Although I do like Ritter from Cincinnati, although, to be honest with you, he's not there at reading coverage yet either. But I definitely think some of the underlying analytics on him were encouraging. James said, Coach, we need to draft Jermaine Johnson, defensive end from Florida State. He is a beast. Yeah, I like the way he sets the edge, man. TK said, is there any prospect you see us trading up for? It's a great question. Edge rushers. Edge rushers if somebody falls. And that's the hard part, is to figure out who might fall from an edge rusher perspective. Thibodeau, the Oregon pass rusher, if he were to start to fall between 8 and 12, say pick 8 and 12, I could see Howie packaging 2 of those first and going up to go get them. Aiden Hutchinson's a no-brainer if he started falling. He's not going to fall, but if he started falling, I think Howie would be all over the phones. I think the interesting one is might they try to get up to go get a corner? I think that's an interesting conversation, TK. Like, do they value the corner, and are they tired? Do they want that situation to be solidified enough to go get an Ahmad Garner? Interesting, because I do think this is a really good corner draft. And I don't think you necessarily have to do that, although I really like Ahmad Garner. I think his his teammate, Colby, I combined their names. I think he's a good football player. And that's a guy that you probably get in the second, third round. Shonuff said, I like Rager. He has the talent without question. He just can't get over the hump. Whatever Quez did in the offseason, Rager needs to do that. Quez made a significant jump in year 2. Marcus Jones from Houston. When it comes to, yes, thank you. Thank you, Takeem. That's exactly what I was thinking. Jeremiah Butler said, when it comes to safety, do you think we need more of a strong or a free? I think you got a couple of frees. Well, I shouldn't say you got a couple of frees. You got Marcus Epps, who can play free. I think if you got a true difference maker at free safety, post safety, the range type, I think you take them. You don't worry about the whole Marcus Epps situation. He can be your third safety. But I definitely think that a box safety is more so probably what is more so needed in the defense. Sorry, I said more so twice there. After that Senior Bowl, Pickett might go second round. I doubt he's going second round, man. But I don't think I wouldn't take him in the top half of the draft. Illuminati says, yeah, I agree, Gay City. The 2023 draft looks a lot better. Yeah, me too. First round linebackers don't usually pan out. There are no Parsons in this draft. Trading back to the second and picking up a 2023 first and drafting a guy like Muma in the second is the way to go. Illuminati said, I personally want Howie to wait it out. Patience is key. Shonoff said, in terms of quarterbacks, the 23 draft is better. He said, I'm still waiting on your feedback of my guy, Carlton Marshall at linebacker. Mini to Edwards. I got you, Dalton, man. It takes time, buddy. I got over 200 guys I got to break down. Build a team, then if Hurts don't work out, we draft a quarterback and put him in a good position with a good team. Coach, would you trade the number 15 pick for J.C. Jackson, the cornerback from New England? Well, he's a free agent, so you're not going to trade it. Would I go sign him in free agency? Depends upon if they want to spend that kind of money. Big-time corner. He's got talent. I mean, Slade's not going to be here forever. That's a legitimate number one. I mean, will they be risky enough to spend that kind of money there? You know what I mean? It's tough to say. Trade JJ for a cheese sandwich. Do you like McLeod or Harris as a box safety? Harris more so than McLeod. They're probably going to bring one of them back, Allie, to be honest. I would think that they're going to hedge they're going to make an insurance here and bring one of those veterans back. I just hope that they go in. My hope is they go sign somebody in free agency. But I don't know that they will. Pull a Reid and go back-to-back corners, Lito and Sheldon Brown. Takeem said, if Kenny Pickett is there at 15, do you pull the trigger? Personally, I wouldn't. I wouldn't make that move, Takeem. And I could be wrong. Kenny Pickett might turn out to be really good, but I know Kenny Pickett's going to be a starting quarterback in this league. I do feel confident in saying that, Takeem. I don't know that he's going to be this top 12 franchise quarterback that people think. I'm still a little iffy on that. That's a ripoff. At least get a bag of chips with your sandwich. Scoob-Doo said, hands down, I would trade up for Kyle Hamilton. A lot would say I'm crazy for saying that, but he's the best defensive player in this draft in my eyes. Something is wrong with my volume. Can you guys hear me? Christian Harris is clearly the best athlete at linebacker. I expect his stock to rise after the combine. You guys can hear me fine? Okay. Don, you might want to go out and come back in. It could be something like that. Sometimes StreamYard's weird. Volume is fine. Chances Doug Peterson and the Jags go after a trade for some of our guys? Possibly. I mean, they got a relationship with the front office. I mean, it's possible. I don't know who Doug would value enough to trade for, though. It would be interesting. Like, they're not going to do it just because of the money behind Rager's contract, but that would be interesting. They won't do it because, like I said, Rager's contract, it's too complex to trade it without a June. You would need a June 1st designation to do anything with them. But, yeah. What would you ask for in a trade for Dillard? I think you got to get a third or a fourth round pick. What wide receiver do you think we take a chance on in free agency? I can't say who it'll be. LAFK, my bad, man. Mike Williams is who I think is a good fit for the Eagles in terms of free agents. I do think that if certain guys get, look, there's, DJ Shark, I think you could take a chance there. I'd still hedge my bets with DJ Shark and draft a guy just because of the injuries. I'm trying to think of his name. The young man that played he played at ODU and then he played for Indianapolis. He had his best season, his best season of his career underneath this coaching staff, underneath Sirianni and underneath Kevin Patullo. So I don't know if maybe he would be really interested in coming back here for next to nothing in cost. I'd probably hedge my bets, man. I like both of the Green Bay wide receivers that are not who you think. I don't know. It's a great question. Do you think we move Dillard this offseason? I think it's a possibility. I think that they're not really I don't think they're overly, trying to move them. I don't think they're out there searching, but I think they'll definitely listen to offers. But I think they like having them as kind of that backup option right now. Lane Johnson. Doug might want Dillard, maybe. Zach Pascal, yeah. Thank you, Ali. Zach Pascal, ODU, yes. Zach Pascal had a career year underneath Patullo and underneath, Sirianni. I don't know if he would be interested in reuniting for next to nothing. Now, I'm not saying like Zach Pascal is like late free agency period. Like you're not going after him for any kind of priority. But I definitely would. I'd bring him in. I'd talk to him. I'd see what he wants in value. I still think Mike Williams is probably the better play in terms of what you need in this offense, what he can give you. Allen Lazard, Allen Lazard, Green Bay still technically controls his rights, but they're in a really peculiar cap situation. If they allow Allen Lazard to test the free agency market, and mind you, they have to allow it, I would be interested in bringing Allen Lazard in here. There's a lot of people, guys. Guyton's a free agent from the Chargers, who I think is a background kind of, back of the class value in terms of not draft value, guys. I'm talking about like free agency value. Guyton's, a guy that adds intrigue. Cedric Wilson from Dallas adds intrigue, although I don't think he gives us what we need in terms of what's needed for this offense per se, but he's a good player. I'm trying to think of guys that are not the normal names you hear, guys. I don't want to. Of course, we would like Chris Godwin. We'd like Mike Williams and those type of players. There's a guy from the Raiders. I can't think of his name right now. He's slipping. I don't have the chart in front of me, guys, but there's a guy from the Raiders that's a pretty good low value kind of player. I mean, there's definitely some guys in this one you could pull up. I don't think you're going to get Godwin on a prove it deal. He's already kind of proved it, man. Do you have enough cap to sign 3 first-rounders? Yeah, we have enough cap to sign 3 first-rounders, but it's going to be expensive. I mean, 3 first-rounders is about $10 million. Then you got to minus the rule of 50. Well, no, it's like 8 something now because we moved back in the area. So it's like it's just under like between $8.5 and $9 million, I believe. But then you got to count in the rule of 51. So you got to subtract the league minimum, which is like $705,000. So you multiply that by 3. Talking about like 2.1 million from that like 8.5 million figure, guys. So it's going to cost you like $6 million, a little over $6 million just to sign 3 first-round picks, and that doesn't count with Joe in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, subsequent rounds. Do you think we get an O-line sleeper in the draft? It's possible. He said, I do think. I'm sorry, LAFK. Let me give you a little more context to that. I do think that this organization is always looking for offensive linemen. And I think if they can get one of these guards that has center, abilities. I'm trying to think of the young man's name from Boston College. I think he's a 2nd round, late 1st round type grade. But if someone like that were to slide down draft boards and for whatever reason didn't go high, I could see them going on a move like that. But I definitely think you're more so talking about day 3 picks. And I think that's obviously, very possible. He said, I like Pascal for depth and some playing time. Have you checked out the lineman Green from Texas A&M? Yes, Dalton, I've taken a look at him. I don't think he's the greatest fit for the Eagles, to be quite honest, because he's just not he's very good on inside zone stuff. So when you look at zone schemes, he's very good at working up to the 2nd level. He's very strong. But he gives you no ability in gap blocking. He's just not a puller. You cannot pull him. So if you're running a gap blocking scheme, he's always going to be the guy that's basically there to seal off the backside because you're not going to pull him. Darkus said, if you were Howie and these 3 were on the board, who would you choose, Dean, Karlaftis, or Hamilton? Hamilton out of those 3, because I think he's going to give you a lot, although I think Karlaftis is at the position you need. But also because I had pick 15 and 16, you know what I'm saying? Like, I probably would go Hamilton. To be honest with you, I'd probably go Hamilton then Dean, although I do think we need a pass rusher. But if I'm going to make all 3 picks, I still feel like I can get an edge rusher at 19, and I can maybe even trade backwards into the back of the 1st and the 2nd round and still get a pass rusher. Zion Johnson. Thank you, Kenny McDaniel. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Zay Jones. Thank you, James. Exactly. Zay Jones from the Raiders. Zay Jones, Guyton, Cedric Wilson. I definitely think all those guys. Allen, Lazard's not a free agent technically unless Green Bay allows it to happen, but Lazard, I definitely think there are these guys that are not at the top of people's list that are vast improvements over what we've been playing on this roster. Alec Lindstrom. if we have 3 first rounders and they work out well at the end of the rookie contracts, we might be only to keep one depending on the cap that year. I will say a lot of guys are coming off the books showing up, but I think you have a point depending upon what they do with Jalen Hurts. Because if Jalen Hurts is under contract and depending on Jalen Hurts takes a team-friendly contract, is it going to be, like, hey, man, I've been looking for my money. You know what I mean? Like, I could see it. I could see that. I could see that being an issue. Center Alex Lindstrom from Boston College is projected to go as early as the 4th round, but more so the 5th round area. Yeah, I wasn't even talking about Alec Lindstrom, but I don't mind that pick at all, guys. I think it's a good pick. I was really talking about Zion Johnson. Zion Johnson has that guard center, obviously because they had Lindstrom there. He didn't play center for Boston College, but he gives you versatility like that. There's also his name slipping my mind, but I know Ali and I, we kind of collaborated on an article on the website. There's a guy from Georgia who's played right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, and left tackle during the course of his 4-year duration of time at Georgia. Early on, he played a lot of center, and then you saw like he's really played almost everywhere. Now, I shouldn't say a lot of center. He played a few snaps at center, I should say. But he's another one of these guys. Like I said, guys, I have 200 some of these dudes' names written down. It's hard to keep up with them. But the young man from Georgia, I think, has a lot of versatility there. Jalen said, in your opinion, what's more valuable? A center fielder at safety who might be a bit of a liability in run support, or a box safety that covers tight ends well but struggles against wide receivers, or a true hybrid who is okay to good? I'd probably take a hybrid in that scenario, Jalen. But I would say right now on this football team, because I had Epps, Jalen, because I had Epsy, I would say that box safety that can cover tight ends, because I do feel like there are times where tight ends kind of beat us up a little bit. And I think we need to take some of that away. Marianne said Hurts is signed with Clutch Sports. He's going to want all his coins. So, that's going to come, those 3 first-round picks, you're going to have to get some flexibility there with the cap. There's no doubt about it, man. He said, Coach, none of those quarterbacks impressed me. He said, Donovan West. Sorry, Shonuff. Shonuff said Donovan West, center from Arizona, looks decent, 2nd or 3rd round pick. I definitely think that you can get guys, like I said, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I definitely think Stoutland knows how to identify these guys who got the underlying talent and how to get them in here. He's pretty good at just pretty much identifying these guys late and making them something out of them. Like I said, I really like Zion Johnson a lot. I think he's a good football player, but I think he's going to be kind of a premium pick. I don't think the Eagles are going to be in range for him. Alec Lindstrom, that Takeem was talking about, I do like Alec Lindstrom a lot. I think he's a good football player. And to be honest, Donovan West, if he's there in the 3rd round, I could see that. Do the Eagles, is that the biggest need for the Eagles? Probably not, but it is a long-term need because Kelsey's not going to be here forever. I definitely think a guy that can play guard and center is your best bet, because I don't know if, say, Amalu's going to eventually be your center. I don't know if it's going to be, Dickerson could technically be your next center, although I would just keep him at left guard personally. Driscoll has the ability to play center. So I would get a guy that gives you the same guard center versatility, and just out of those 4 guys, you find out, even Big Boy, he's got the ability to play center. So I would, out of those, 4 guys and drafting a guy that gives you that kind of versatility, out of those 4 or 5 guys, I would just take the guy that gives you, your center is it's an important position on that team. I'd pick the guy that's got the most upside there. Hamilton is no joke. I hear you. What's up, Caleb? How you doing, buddy? Any good pass rushers in this upcoming free agency? Ogbah from Miami is probably my favorite of the guys. There's definitely a few dudes. There's a few dudes, Illuminati, that are okay, decent level guys, right? They're not really like stars per se. Exactly, show enough. He said, if Stoutland's on the job, we need not worry. Exactly. How good is Evan Neal? Physical, man. Dalton, he's physical. Big guy. A lot of people talk about Falale, how you say his name, from Minnesota, I believe he played at, who's a big guy. Definitely, 6'9", 380. But I got to be honest with you, Evan Neal's like 6'7", 6'8", 350, 360. He's not a small dude either. And he's another one of these dancing teddy bears with like really good physical play. He's pretty good, man. He's probably a top 10 pick, to be honest. Caleb said a good third, fourth round center would be clutch. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they need to panic about it, but yeah, a guy that gives you some versatility, I would be in favor of, guys. I would definitely like to see that be kind of an approach for the team to do. I mean, who knows what they'll do ultimately, guys, but definitely I think that's what they should do. Hard to say, guys. All right, y'all, we've been on here for an hour and 35 minutes. I'm about to close out here in a few minutes, guys. Don't forget, if you guys want to get the quarterback tracking guide, the links are below. The article to Sam wrote, my bad, guys, but Sam wrote about the front office. That's linked down below, where he talks about the interview process and what's going on with some of our coaches as well as the front office members. Merch, if you want the cap, that's down below, guys. All that stuff's down below. Let me read a couple of your comments before we jump off, guys. Kelsey to mold him. I like that idea, Caleb, of having a guy there that can potentially help you. I agree. Dret Patterson from Notre Dame. Lemonade T said, thanks for the stream, Gate. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Imagine using a 6'9", 300+ pound guy as a running back. It's a big dude. It'd be hard to tackle. There's no doubt about that, guys. All right, y'all. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning, 9:05. I'm going to think about the topic. I don't know the topic offhand yet, guys. Let me think a little bit about what we're going to talk about. We have a lot to break down in terms of the draft prospects and all that kind of stuff. So I'll definitely get back to you. Later today, guys, I will produce the second part of the video. So you guys know you got part 1 from Malik Willis. I'll give you guys part 2 of his Senior Bowl performance, guys. Yes, and Caleb and Jalen will be coming on the channel here pretty soon to talk about the screen and pass pro. So they're going to be coming on to talk about the screen and pass pro. So thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all, man. Later, everybody.